And when a member of the WNBA media starts going in and giving unbiased opinions about certain players in the league, it does feel a little erroneous, considering that people go to these members of the WNBA media for unbiased statistical information. If you're wondering who I'm talking about, it is none other than Natalie Esquire.
Did an NBC reporter really just put themselves in hot water by disrespecting Caitlin Clark on Twitter? Oh, you better believe it. And let's just say it didn't take long for instant regret to hit.
It sure as heck does not surprise me, but I gotta say, an unbiased WNBA legacy reporter is not as...
We all know Caitlin Clark isn't just a great player, she's a game changer. She's shifting the landscape of women's basketball, breaking records and bringing a massive wave of attention to the WNBA. Yet despite all of this, some people just can't help themselves when it comes to downplaying her success. But this time the backlash was immediate and brutal fans weren't having it, and Twitter erupted. Let's break down exactly what went down and why. This reporter just might be regretting their words
as you might think. So according to this post that she put up on social media, Natalie Esquire says, Chelsea Gray is the best point guard in the WNBA. That hasn't changed because she has a down year returning from injury. The disrespect...
It all started with a single tweet, just one sentence from NBC reporter Natalie Esquire. And the internet absolutely lost it at this point. It's almost becoming a pattern. Every time Caitlin Clark does something remarkable, there's a certain segment of sports media that refuses to acknowledge it. Instead, they either downplay her accomplishments or try to shift the conversation entirely. And this time it was no different.
So I am assuming that Natalie Esquire posted this because a lot of people were questioning Chelsea Gray because she was coming back from an injury that made her very slow, and it did hurt her game a lot. But when you post something like this, it makes a lot of people go in and just go into receipts, because this is quite a provable.
Natalie Esquire, who already has a history of taking shots at Clark, made a claim that Chelsea Gray was the best point guard in the WNBA now on the surface. That might not seem like a big deal. Gray is a great player, proven champion, and an experienced veteran, but the way Esquire framed her tweet made it very clear this wasn't just about praising Gray, it was about dismissing Clark entirely, and fans weren't having it what made it even worse was the timing. Esquire's tweet came after Clark had been putting up some of the best numbers in the league. The idea that Gray, who had been dealing with injuries and wasn't even playing at an elite level at that moment, was still somehow the best point guard just didn't make sense. It was clearly a forced narrative, and fans weren't about to let it slide. The backlash was immediate. Within minutes, Twitter was on fire with replies, quote tweets, and receipts. People weren't just disagreeing, they were coming with facts. One of the most common responses was simple: if Gray was truly the best, why didn't the numbers back it up? Let's get into the stats. First, we'll pull up the best point guard in the WNBA, objectively Caitlin Clark. In her one professional season in the WNBA, Caitlin Clark came away with an average of 19, 2 points, 8, 4 assists, and 5, 7 rebounds for the season. Now, let's check out Chelsea GRA stats. So according to Natalie Esquire, she had an off-season last season with coming back from injury. And in last season, she had averaged, what did she average? 8. Let's break it down. Caitlin Clark in her rookie season was averaging close to 20 points per game, while also leading the league in assists. Her ability to run an offense, stretch the floor, and create plays for her teammates was unmatched. Even veteran players were struggling to guard her. Despite her being in just her first year, GR averaged 8, 6 points, 2, 9 rebounds, and 4, 9 assists. And again, let's give her some grace because she did come back from an injury. But let's check out the year before. And this is when the Las Vegas Aces had won the championship. She did average 15, 3 points a game. Not bad, right? She averaged 4 rebounds and 7, 3 assists, and that's good, but it still is not better. Meanwhile, Chelsea Gray, while still a respected player, wasn't producing at the same level. Even in her best season, she hadn't matched the numbers that Clark was already putting up. And yet, according to Esquire, that didn't matter. Caitlin is not a victim as a rookie. But then when you also elbow people, and then you keep on talking all the way down the court like you're not a victim. So then for you to go into the post game and be like, yeah, well, I don't want to retaliate, like I know people are going to come for me and I just got to let it be what it is. But the people that retaliate are the ones that get in trouble. Like, Caitlin, you're weaponizing how people view you and are talking about you when you say something like that ever around. And find out Kennedy is an isolated incident. That little shoulder bump, it was not that serious. You fell down. The first thing you did is, and you looked to the damn refs to give you that's what happened. And You look, and that's what she always does, right? She's always falling to the floor. And then people acting like it's mad hard. It's like, pay attention to what she did in college. I would say that her coach did not do a good job preparing her for physicality of what was to come and what to expect in the WNBA. This is where fans really started pushing back, because it wasn't just about this one tweet. It was about the pattern. People started pulling up previous receipts, showing that Esquire had been downplaying Clark's impact for months. This wasn't just a one-time bad take. This was consistent bias. One of the most damning receipts, a tweet where Esquire accused Clark of stat padding when she was chasing an assist record. Thing about that. For a second, a point guard trying to break an assist record was accused of padding stats, since Y is setting up teammates and distributing the ball considered a selfish move. That take alone showed that Esquire's issue wasn't about objectivity. It was about personal bias. And once the internet gets hold of something like that, it's over. The ratio on her tweet started to spiral out of control. People weren't just replying, they were roasting her. Some even questioned if she actually watched the games, considering how obvious it was that Clark was outplaying every other point guard in the league. Instead of backing down, Esquire doubled down, which, as we all know, is never a good idea when the facts aren't on your side. She started arguing with fans, applying to tweets, and making herself look even worse when the most bizarre moments came with when she responded to someone calling her out by saying, "I am the media." Oh boy, that was not the flex she thought was at that moment. Esquire exposed herself in a way that couldn't be undone. It wasn't about facts. It wasn't about stats. It wasn't even about basketball. It was about ego. She wasn't trying to have a real conversation. She was just trying to prove that she was right, even when all the evidence said otherwise. And Twitter ate up memes started pouring in. Screenshots of her past tweets were being reposted. People even made compilation threads of all the times she had tried and failed to discredit Clark. It got so bad that some of her own followers started calling her out. That's when you know you've lost. Even neutral WNBA fans, people who weren't necessarily Clark supporters, started chiming in, because at the end of the day, it wasn't just about Clark. It was about integrity in sports journalism. If you're going to call yourself a professional reporter, you have a responsibility to be fair and objective. But Esquire had proven time and time again that she wasn't interested in that. She was pushing an agenda, and everyone could see it at this point. The situation had spiraled so far out of control that Esquire started deleting tweets. That's when instant regret really hit, because when you start erasing your words, it's clear that you know you messed up. But by then it was too late. The internet never forgets screenshots where everywhere threads had already been created. The damage to her credibility was permanent. And Caitlin Clark, she was too busy dominating on the court to even acknowledge the drama. That's what made this whole situation even funnier. While Esquire was arguing on Twitter, Clark was out there putting up numbers, proving with her play that she didn't need to respond to critics. This is why the media bias against Clark is so bizarre. She's literally everything the WNBA should want in a star. She's skilled, she's marketable, she's bringing millions of new eyes to the league. And yet there's still a segment of people who refuse to give her the credit she deserves. But at this point, it doesn't even matter, because Clark doesn't need their approval. She's letting her game do the talking. As for Esquire, well, let's just say she might want to think twice before logging back onto Twitter, because the internet is not going to let this one go anytime soon. At this point, the damage was done. Natalie Esquire had officially walked herself into one of the biggest self-inflicted L's of the year. And it wasn't just Caitlin Clark fans who were roasting her anymore. It was the entire basketball community. See, the thing about Twitter is that once you get caught in a bad take, you have two choices. You can either own up to it, take the loss, and move on, or you can double down and make things 10 times worse for yourself. Guess which route Esquire took? Yep, she doubled down. Instead of admitting that maybe, just maybe, she had overlooked Clark's dominance and let personal bias cloud her judgment, she decided to keep arguing. She kept firing off tweets, responding to people in full-on offensive mode, and honestly, it was painful to watch. One person even called her out directly, saying, "You're the same person who tried to say Caitlin Clark was stat padding when she was breaking assist records. Are you ever going to admit that you just don't like her?" Esquire's response: "I've been covering women's basketball for years. My opinions are based on experience and knowledge of the game, not fandom." Yikes, that was not the move, because the second you have to start justifying yourself like that, it's already over. When you're right, you don't have to convince people. You just show them the facts, and in this case, the facts were not on her side. So what happened next? Well, the internet took over at this point. People weren't just replying to her. They were clowning her. Nonstop memes started rolling, and people began screenshotting all her past anti-Clark tweets and posting them as a timeline of bias. One user put together a thread that went viral documenting every single time Esquire had tried to diminish Clark's accomplishments. It was brutal. The comments were filled with people saying things like she really tried to push this Chelsea Gray agenda and got cooked in 24 hours. You know you messed up. When even neutral WNBA fans are calling you out, this is what happens when you let emotions get in the way of facts. It was relentless. And then came the moment we all knew was coming. Esquire started deleting tweets. Oh, it was over once you start erasing your own words. That's when you know instant regret has hit. Because here's the thing on the internet, nothing is ever truly deleted. Screenshots were everywhere. The receipts had already been filed, and deleting the tweets just made it look like she was trying to cover her tracks. At this point, the entire basketball world was watching, and even some respected analysts started weighing in. One well-known WNBA reporter tweeted, "Objectivity in journalism is important. If you're going to push a narrative, at least back it up with facts. Otherwise, you're just a fan with a platform that one hit hard." Because that's exactly what Esquire had become, a fan with a platform. Now, let's step back for a second and talk about why this situation blew up so much. It wasn't just because Esquire made a bad take. Bad takes happen all the time. Sports debates are supposed to be fun. But this was something different. This was an ongoing pattern of bias from someone who claims to be an objective journalist. And that's where people drew the line. Because when you position yourself as a trusted media figure, people expect you to be fair. They expect you to analyze the game with logic, not emotion. And when you consistently try to downplay the success of one player while hyping up others with no real justification, it's no longer just an opinion, it's an agenda. And that's why fans were furious. Caitlin Clark has been nothing but a positive force for the WNBA. She's brought in millions of new viewers, increased jersey sales, and turned Indiana Fever games into must-at TV. The WNBA is benefiting directly from her presence. So why is there so much resistance from certain members of the media? That's the real question. Why is it so hard for some people to just say, yay, Caitlin Clark is great, instead of just acknowledging the obvious? They search for ways to diminish what she's doing. They say she's just a shooter then. She drops a double-double with assists and rebounds. They say she can't handle physical defense. Then she bulks up and starts finishing through contact. They say she's not the best point guard. Then she leads the league in assists as a rookie. At what point does it just become denial? That's what fans are fed up with. And that's why Esquire's tweet backfired so badly, because the basketball community is smarter than ever. People watch the games, they see what's happening, and they won't just accept lazy narratives anymore. So after hours of getting roasted, after deleting tweets, after getting ratio beyond repair, what did Esquire do? Well, she did what most people in this situation do. She went silent. The Twitter activity stopped. No more responses, no more doubling down, just silence. And that silence, that was the loudest admission of defeat possible. Because if she actually believed what she was saying, she wouldn't have deleted tweets. She wouldn't have gone ghost. She would have stood by her words, but she didn't. And that tells you everything you need to know. Meanwhile, Caitlin Clark was completely unbothered. She was out there putting up numbers, leading her team, and proving with her play that she doesn't need media validation. That's what makes this even funnier. While Esquire was losing credibility online, Clark was just hooping. And that's why this debate is over. Caitlin Clark doesn't need the approval of biased reporters. She doesn't need forced narratives to prop her up. She's letting her game do the talking, and right now that game is saying loud and clear she's not just the best point guard in the WNBA, she's on her way to becoming one of the best to ever do it. And there's nothing Natalie Esquire or anyone else can do about it. So what do you think? Did Natalie Esquire let her personal bias get in the way of reporting the truth? Or was this just another case of the media trying to discredit Caitlin Clark? Drop your thoughts in the comments below, because this debate is far from over. And if you enjoyed this breakdown, don't forget to like and subscribe for more updates on Caitlin Clark, the WNBA, and everything happening in the basketball world. Because, let's be honest, this won't be the last time someone tries and fails to discredit Caitlin Clark. Thanks for watching, and I'll catch you in the next one.